Welcome back, folks, to Inside Texas Baseball. I'm your host, Evan Veith, joined here by Nash Talks Texas. As always, we are here to talk some Texas baseball after an wildly successful Las Vegas Classic where the team combined for 35 runs in a 3-0 weekend against Washington, Texas Tech, and Illinois. Really good weekend for the Bats, especially some good starting pitching showed out. But Nash, what's your first kind of takeaway from this weekend that you saw?
Bats are doing a lot better. We start off the season kind of, the cold weather outside. Once we got outside the tournament, cold weather, the bats kind of started to cool down, and you started to kind of there's a little bit of worry, but for those that really kind of paid attention to the team all last year and kind of knew what we had coming into this year, you really weren't too worried, and you saw that with this weekend with the bats. They were absolutely on fire.
Yeah, and those Dartmouth games, a lot of the bat problems were from the guys who you were expecting to hit well. The Jalen Flores's, your Rylan Galvans, the veterans, and especially Flores, which I assume we'll talk about pretty quickly into this, had an absurdly good weekend this weekend. He had a 500 batting average, 10 run and RBI combined, had two bombs in the Washington game. A great series as well for Galvan. Pretty much everyone on this team hit well. Outside of Flores, is there anyone else that really stood out to you?
I want to say Easton Winfield. That guy on Homer. If you want to pull that up real quick, the batting. So these are the exit velocities from the players this weekend. Easton Winfield. He's a guy that really we expected to come into this year. He was expected to be one of our leading guys leading for doubles candidates. Like just high batting average type guy. And he had a really rough start. He was getting down to almost getting below 100. So really kind of struggling, and man, he started to have some really good contact.
Yeah, and for those of our viewers who are a little less adept with the baseball metrics and stuff, obviously red is better in these graphs. You're seeing a lot of red.
Yes,
That's a good thing. You want to
dark red is
that
really good.
over that over 100 exit velo is elite batting. It means that you're getting really good contact on the ball. LA stands for launch angle. It's are you driving the ball deep? Those like 35-degree launch angles are your home runs, and then hit distance, how far you hit the ball. So you're seeing someone like Baloo who just tore the ball up. Was that like 12 hits around that 88 up to 106? Like you said, Easton Winfield only really played in that Illinois game at the end there, and he's had a rough year so far to start, but not with the velos. He is destroying the ball when he makes contact. The contact's been a problem, but you're seeing here these weren't balls that he was hitting like deep. These were two hard hit singles, ones that going back up the middle, and that's what you need to see from Winfield if he wants to reclaim that spot as a full time starter, as that kind of ninth guy in the lineup.
Yeah, I mean, really, what you want to look for is the MLB. They classify hard hits as anything above 95 mile an hour, so 95.0, and that is what these numbers are. The velo is in miles per hour. That isn't shown on here, but the one thing that really stands out to me too is you got Jalen Flores, Max Blue, and Ethan Mendoza. All three of those guys have now Ethan Mendoza. You're counting. We're giving him a point 0.5 leeway right here,
Yeah,
but those three guys, they each have 7 hard hits on the weekend, and they're really barreling up balls. Jalen Flores getting right back into the swing of things. I think he only had one hit that wasn't an extra base hit. If not, I actually no, I scratched that. I
no,
think all of his
it's
hits
all
were
extra
extra
base
base
hits.
hits. It was either doubles or home runs. So uh, great results when his bat has been hitting the ball.
And you're really seeing some guys even getting unlucky here. A guy you point out on this team that maybe the numbers aren't looking as good as Kimball Schuessler started the year as that leadoff guy. Mendoza's been so good that you kind of can't keep him at that 9 spot in the lineup. But Schuessler, man, 106 mile per hour outs, one a double play. You just you can't scheme for that. You can't expect that a guy to get mad at himself about hitting a ball that hard and getting out. Whereas he's got a single on a 71 mile an hour. So things even out in the baseball gods worlds, but him, Rodriguez with a 109 mile per hour ground out. It's almost like Texas scored all these runs, and yet you feel like there's more on the surface that can be grabbed.
Yeah, I think when you're looking at Kimball Schuster specifically, this is a great example of honestly what we want to be watching for with a really good team, because baseball is not a consistent sport. It's a very streaky thing. You're going to have your struggles. You're going to have your times where you're doing really good, and you just need to have a consistent approach. There's one thing that you can control, and that's your approach to every single game and how you prepare for things. And Kimball Schuster, like you said, I mean, he's hitting the crap out of the baseballs. Coming into this weekend, he was 0 for 10 on his last 10 at bats, but he should have had like I think it was like 4 or 6 doubles in that. And you look at this on the graphic right here, he got a double on his third worst, you know, bat contact right there,
Yep.
bat to ball contact that he had. So he's getting line outs, his ground ball, double play, ground out, but he's hitting the crap out of the ball. And the reality is, like you said, like the law of averages is going to start to swing in his favor. He's going to, as long as he keeps on putting good bat on good ball on the ball, uh, that ball's going to fly and it's going to start landing in some really good places for Texas.
Yeah, and he's also the kind of guy who doesn't struggle with strikeouts, maybe the way the Flores has in the past and even recently. So you're expecting, if he keeps getting the solid contact, you're seeing so much of it here on this graph that he's gonna turn it around. We now have four different players with an OPS over 1,000, which for those who aren't aware, OPS is slugging plus on base percentage. So that's just an absurd number to be at this point of the year. Playing this many opponents of high caliber, a lot of teams are kind of cupcaking their schedule, and I know Schloss kind of prefers that. But right now, this Texas team has played Power Five, Power Four conference opponents in Mendoza, Ballou, Rodriguez, Flores, all over 1,000. Gasparino, Galvan, and Farmer all over 800 on their OPS. It's a nine deep lineup already at this point of the year, and that's going to be really important going into SEC play.
Well, and specifically on that too, you look at a guy like Ethan Mendoza, right? Who is one of these guys that I believe. Let me just double check. Yeah, he is one of the over that. He's our second best hitter on the year right now, and it was kind of crazy, him coming in. If you were to put a bet on the guys transfer candidates to come in and hit home runs, he's probably on the last. Like he's probably the last guy
Last
that
on the
you're thinking is
list.
going to hit home
Yep.
runs. Like no disrespect to him, but he's already hit the same amount of home runs that he had all of last season. So it's just you didn't nobody. I don't think anybody could have even seen this coming. But he starts off the year 2-12. And Homer, pull up the. There's some numbers from the first tournament. He was hitting the crap out of the ball. Like we said, like we're saying for Kimball Schuster and you see for a couple of these guys. They're putting some good bat, like they're making some very solid contact. And he had multiple times where he was hitting the ball really well and he just wasn't getting rewarded for it. And you also saw that there was cold weather. He hits 101 mile an hour exit velo with almost perfect launch angle out to left field, and the ball doesn't fly out of the
Yep.
ballpark at the dish. So he should honestly have one more home run on the season so far if we were to just have perfect weather. But Ethan Mendoza, I mean, you want to talk about a guy that's absolutely smacking the crap out of the ball, and then also he's this last game that was his fifth game in a row multi-hit games.
Yep.
I mean, you want to talk about streaks like Max Ballou, 10-game hitting streak. There's there's a lot to like about this Texas team on the offensive side.
Yeah, that exact thing written down. Three two-hit games for Mendoza over the weekend. And for a guy of his stature, and like you said, if you had asked me 10 games in the season who's leading the team in home runs and tied, I think Mendoza being over Baloo would have never even come close to crossing my mind. And he's still, like you said, has some skin on the bone left that he with that left field line out, or the fly out, sorry. And yeah, 102-mile-an-hour line out, 100-mile-an-hour fly out. Maybe it's the kind of guy that in the offseason they're saying, don't raise the ball, don't elevate it, try to hit these slappers, try to get the balls into the gap. But if he's going to hit the ball to the warning track all the time, then of course you're not trying to fix the swing. And so many of these lineouts and flyouts are just going to start dropping a little bit more. Same thing we talked about with Schussler. If you're smacking it right to the left fielder, you hit it half a second earlier, that's going down the left field line. So Mendoza's been just an absurd addition. I know all of these players are SEC newcomers, but for whatever award that would be, the SEC newcomer of the year, he's already putting himself on a short list right there.
Well, and also too I know we're talking about the offense, but his defense has been
Hmm.
elite. I mean, like you're talking about some. I know it's like this is college baseball we're talking about here, so you're expected to make these plays, but there are some really hard hit ground balls that he's making really good glove plays on. There specifically the one where the first tournament, Jalen Flores dives, does it gives him the barehanded feed,
Yep.
and he just catches it barehanded, throws the ball, throws him out. He's out there like he's your typical dirtbag baseball player, right? He's out there dropping bunts, trying to get on base, like trying to get steals, just trying to irk the pitcher, do whatever he can. He's a good baseball player.
Yeah, what's so great about him is that he projects to be a 4-year guy in college, and he's someone that Texas is going to have not just this season, but 2 more after, very likely. So, what an amazing pickup by Jim
Well, not
Schlossman
if he
going
keeps playing
forward.
like this.
Yes, I mean seriously, that's a good point. But at least when he came in, you think that he'd
Oh
be
yeah,
that
yeah.
way.
No, if he
So,
when he came in, and this is also even more so like this is one of the guys that Texas fans have been asking for getting like, and not to say like specifically they're saying, hey, go grab that Ethan Mendoza guy. But we're always talking about how we want guys that are Longhorn fans, right? We want guys
mhm.
that they live in like they bleed burnt orange all their lives. This guy is one of those guys. He hates the Aggies. He's quickly become a fan favorite.
Yeah, a South Lake Carroll graduate, just like a former quarterback of ours.
Mhm.
And I think this definitely segues into one of the points that you really pointed out in our group chat coming into this is these crooked innings for Texas. That Mendoza, of course, has been one. I think he had 4 RBIs in his. But you're seeing the way that crooked innings work is you're scoring the runs all in chunks. It's not you're getting 9 runs with a 1 run an inning. It's these streaks. Maybe it's a 2-out streak. But you see that Texas in all these games 7 runs against Ole Miss, 8 runs against Oklahoma State, 4 and 9 against Illinois, 7 against Texas Tech, 7 against Washington. Texas, when they score, it might be a little infuriating, like you saw, especially against Dartmouth. These streaks where there's 3 innings of just nothing, where everyone's getting out. Maybe there's a walk, no hard hit balls, but then they find this explosive inning, and it just feels like everyone feeds off that energy. That maybe that's a culture thing that's working out for them. Maybe it's just that they all kind of build themselves off each other, but that leadoff single gets on, and it feels like Texas might get you 10 runs in that 1 inning.
Yeah, I mean, look, even when you look at the 3 games that we didn't have, or well, it's 2 games, but the Dartmouth series is the only series where we didn't have cricket innings, and
Mhm,
you can one of those games was good weather, but you can point to the weather and say, "Hey, that probably is affecting the hitting, right?" And the the 2 games with bad weather probably had a little bit of effect on the, good day that they had good
mhm.
weather, but this team, they score in bunches, and when you look at all the numbers that you see highlighted right here, that's 56 runs out of 79 runs scored for Texas. That's 70.9% of their runs in those innings, and it's one of those things where if you're an opposing team too, when you do your study on Texas, right, you're never gonna feel safe. Never. Like, this is the team that a team could be up 6 runs, and all of a sudden Texas gets the bases loaded in the bottom of the 8th or in the top of the 8th, and then all of a sudden the team on the home team is sitting there sweating, right?
Mhm.
Because Texas has that potential where, I mean, if you have bases loaded and Max Blue comes up to the plate, it's just one swing before this thing's certainly in reach. Uh, but this Texas offense, I think this just really shows when they get rolling, they really start to roll. Like, I mean, 7 runs in 1 inning, 8 runs in 1 inning, 7 runs in 1 inning, 7 runs in another inning, 9 runs in another inning, and then also you had 4 runs in another inning in that same game. This is a team that when they start to hit the ball, uh, hits are contagious, and it certainly seems to be the case for this team.
Yeah, and I think this is so well exemplified by that Illinois game. Bing gets into that 4th inning, and he struggles a bit. They put up 5 on him. One of those was unearned, I believe. And I think I remember seeing a tweet of yours, one of those freezing cold takes. It's like this offense has to wake up. Texas looks like they're
Wait,
they're
did
out of
freezing
this
cold
game.
takes pick it up?
No, I don't think so.
I thought they picked up one of my tweets before, but
I've seen that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But just like that, it's almost like you were the one who energized them because they get you 4 in that 4th inning, and suddenly it's a ball game. And then they had 1 run after the 3rd inning. They finished with 15 because of a 9-run 6th inning where that whole game there's not a single home run hit by Texas against Illinois. It was doubles all over the place. That seventh or the 6th inning, sorry, was led off by Easton Winfield with a single, and he got pinch ran for by Farmer, and the floodgates opened immediately. Just onslaught on the Illinois pitcher, and all of it came from doubles and singles and getting on base. I think Gasparino had a walk. It's not just that they're hitting the ball out of the ballpark, and it's ones that maybe teams can just pitch around a little bit. They're gappers. They're hitting the ball up the middle. They're getting it done in multiple different ways, and it's so important for the longevity of a team.
and honestly, I think what you really see here is you see a lot of that consistency that I was talking about, how you wanna have consistency in your approach, but man, this team, when a pitcher starts to struggle, right? When there's blood when blood starts to get in the water, it's just that consistency. Like this team, you got like Jalen Flores. Even when he was having a bad batting average, right?
Mhm.
He's seeing 9, 10 pitches in that bat. The quality of at bats that this team is taking, like even freshman Adrian Rodriguez, Will Gasparino, he's not striking out. His batting average hasn't increased, but he's still putting really good barrel on the ball. Like
Yep.
I basically every single time the bat touches the ball for him, he's either getting a triple, double, or a home run. Right, one of those three things is probably going to happen. But it's this consistency of taking good at bats, just constantly seeing pitches, and the more pitches that you see, the better off you're going to be later on in the game. And man, sometimes when they're sitting there waiting for a pitcher to get warm, right? You don't you're not going to have time to wait with Texas.
Mhm.
As soon as you need to pull a pitcher, you're going to need to pull them now because this is a team that, as soon as there's blood in the water, the Sharks are going to jump on it.
Yeah, Gasparino 9 hits on the year, 6 walks as well to add on to that, 7 of them for extra bases. And I think the one kind of area of the game that really stuck out to me when you're looking at these numbers is that 5th and 6th inning area where 9 against Illinois, 3 against Texas Tech, 7 against Washington, against Oklahoma State, I believe. Yeah, 5th inning right there. What Texas is really good at, and what really stood out to me with that is they beat up on different pitchers, but it's always that same exact idea of against Washington, it was their starting pitcher. They got to that third time around the order, and they were seeing the ball so much better. Banks was a great pitcher for Washington last year. He pitched really well in that first bit of the game, but got to that 6th inning, and he was just getting beat up on
He
by
pitched great. Like, this is one of the things where it's like, if he were a Texas pitcher, I'd be making up. I'd still be saying, hey, glass half full, right? Like
Yep,
that guy
yeah.
had an amazing day. He had a. It's just one of those situations where you know what baseball's a cruel mistress, and sometimes the stats aren't going to show the effort that you had on the mound. But he had a great day out there on the mound. He just got touched up.
Yeah, and the only one who touched him in the first 5 innings was Jalen Flores. He had 2 home runs. Everyone else was pretty quiet against him, and then the team starts seeing the ball a little better in the 6th inning, and it's just over from there. Then against Texas Tech, they were on their 3rd reliever. They were on kind of the outside of the long relief guy, that first next guy up. They beat up on him, and then against Illinois, they brought in a reliever instantly. Texas is pouncing on him. It's just so good to see that they're not only doing it against the time around against the starter. It's not just that first reliever. It's every single pitcher that comes out when it hits that 5th, 6th inning, seventh inning time, they have to be scared and they have to be thinking about, hey, this team could explode on me, and my day might be over within 20 pitches and 4 batters because they've already put up 3 runs. And I
Well,
think that's just such an important part of this team right now.
yeah, I mean, you're gonna have when we get to the SEC play, you're gonna have SEC coaches they're gonna be pulling starters early because of what you're sitting here talking about. I mean, because for those that aren't really aware, when you get to the fourth, fifth, sixth inning, those are usually the second at bats for guys. They've already had one time through, so they've already gotten they've seen the slider, they've seen the fastball. Hopefully and that's the importance of working a full count is you get to see more pitches, not just I mean, it's great to see 4 fastballs and not get a walk, right? Get on base. I'm always gonna take somebody that gets on base. But if you can get a walk or get a base hit and you've seen a couple sliders, you've seen a curveball, you've seen change up, right? You've seen all the pitches now. When you go up to the next at bat, now you're more prepared going into the at bat. Now when you get into the counts and you're expecting certain pitches, you know what to look for, right? You're it's different when you get that from the batter's box perspective of a pitch. And these guys are elite athletes, like this stuff. And to be honest, I didn't even. I just realized I didn't even. I missed one of the squares. And I knew this was going to happen because
Oh yeah,
yeah,
against Tech.
it's versus Texas Tech. I mean, this is the thing is this team they score so many runs. It's just easy to do this. So I want to get the correct number. Yeah, it's 74.7% of our runs are scored
Jeez,
on crooked innings.
three
It's
quarters
just like
almost
this is
right
just
there.
insane stuff that we're seeing. Like this is not normal baseball. These are we're going to see a lot of football scores this year, and it's just the other thing too is I love to think about this because when you're trying to chase a good pitcher out of the game, like that's one of those things. That's one of those like subjective. It's such a subjective thing to when should a pitcher be pulled out of the game, right? It's
Mhm.
like that's why managers get paid a lot of money. They get paid the big bucks, but a lot of SEC coaches are going to have a lot of tough decisions on when to pull guys this year.
It might be one of the hardest decisions any coach in any sport has to make is that the Rays, Blake Snell, Astros when my Nationals beat them had Zach Greinke on the bump dealing. It's such a hard thing to know, and especially when you're playing these LSU type teams. Now Oklahoma's looking great this year. They're Friday starters. You want to trust them, but if Texas is in the sixth inning, this game is close, and it's the top of the order. Mendoza's coming up. How much can you trust your pitcher to be able to go out and get them out a third time? Big thing to think about. I think that that might take us into our Laura Baker sponsorship. Our good friend Laura Connor, you want to bring him up for us?
Hi, I want to tell you about Laura Baker. If you're looking for a new home in the 512 or even at this point, let's face it, 737 area code, there's only one number to call. That's Laura Baker at 512-784-0505. As a member of the elite Andy Allen team with Keller Williams, Laura has helped Longhorns find the home of their dreams in Central Texas. Just ask our resident sex symbol, Ian Boyd, who moved all the way from Michigan to Texas with Laura's help. Laura can help you find what you're looking for in the 512, the 737, or even parts of the 254 and the 210. Just, give her a call at 512-784-0505. Her email is in the description as well as the rest of her contact details. She's a friend. Give her a call.
And we've talked a lot about hitting from this weekend. I think it's time to talk about a subject that's maybe a little bit touchier for Texas right now outside of maybe the top two guys, the pitching staff. You saw Jared Spencer got to 6 innings for the first time this weekend, which was great. Luke Harrison, another awesome out. You can see those stats are just unbelievable. But Nash, what were you seeing, especially on that Sunday game against Illinois? Some runs given up by Bing, and just generally with this pitching staff from this weekend.
I mean, obviously, with the Jared Spencer and Luke Harrison, we're getting some amazing stuff out of those two guys. And if nothing else, right, having two guys that you can rely on to go get you starts and put you in a position to go win ball games at a high consistent rate, man, that's worth its weight in gold, especially in the SEC, right? But then you go and I still maintain, man, I like to see that we're getting a lot of strikes from Cade Bing.
Mm-hmm.
Dylan Volantis is looking great. I mean, 3 innings coming in, getting a save. I will be honest, even as much as I know baseball, that was the first time I figured out that you could pitch 3 innings and get a save.
Yep.
I was like, how do you qualify for a save with a 6-run lead? But whatever. But love to see Dylan Volantis out there. He's looking really good. It's kind of crazy that when you look at, because it does seem like they want to get him geared up to becoming one of those starters that we have coming in. And man, it's crazy to think that, like, Texas, it's hard to think. I don't know if we've ever had 3 starting lefties in a row coming in. But we have out of our four, top potential starting options, not no disrespect to Jason Flores, he might put himself into there. We'll see that pretty soon. 4 out of our 5 top starting options are all lefties, and that's like, it's abnormal to see that.
Yeah, you don't see it too much in the college game, and it might just be because so many righty hitters are present in the college game, and it's also harder to find lefties that can pump you 97 miles an hour like Jared Spencer might. And yeah, I agree, especially on that Sunday idea. I think Texas and Schlossnagle know that they have their top 2 guys, and then it's a very work in progress as we get into SEC play here. But if you're getting 3 innings from Bing, and then the way Grubbs pitched on Sunday was fantastic. I thought he did so well in his. He had some unearned runs there, but 4 1/3 of 0 earned run baseball, 3 strikeouts and 4 hits. Not perfect numbers, but really good, and kept them at bay. And then Volantis obviously has just been such a great addition to this team this year. And I think those 3 players, if they can get you the 9 innings every Sunday, and you're giving up 6 runs maximum, I'm happy about that every time. I think that's a fine way to do it, your Sunday starting pitcher. And like you talked about, you're probably going to see Jason Flores again this Tuesday against, I think, A&M Corpus Christi, who's on the schedule, and he's someone that's going to vie for that Sunday option as well. But it's a work in progress for this pitching staff and those guys who are going to get you those 3+ inning spots. But Grubbs having past starting experience, Volantis and Bing both being starters, and being able to get you that heavy inning pitch number, it's going to be important for the long term run, and making sure that they're taking some of these Sunday games. If say Harrison or Spencer has an off day on a Friday, Saturday, because as much as it's great to see Texas at 9-1 this year, especially after 2 tournaments, which we barely even touched on, that Schloss has now won 2 tournaments in his time at Texas. It's not going to be this easy for Texas here on out. It's going to get harder. They have this Santa Clara series, and then you're going to Mississippi State. You're heading to Starkville. So Texas has a lot ahead of it, and I think that pitching is definitely in the spot that in these next 4 games, a lot needs to be found out about these guys, especially in relief.
Yeah, I think Max Grubbs is probably going to be one of the most important pitchers that we have on the roster, if not the most important. Just because he's not just going to be like, he's going to get closing opportunities. He's going to get himself. He's when you want experience on the mound, you're going to put out Max Grubbs. Like that's going to be the guy that you throw out there. And he's just going to be used in so many different situations. But I think more the common thing that you're going to notice with his when he goes out there is he's going out there in situations where we need something. Like we need it shut down now, right? Like stop it all, right? Stop whatever's happening. We just need good results. But when you look at the opponent batting averages against our pitchers,
Yep.
Ruger Riojas is the highest one at 273.
273.
And anybody that's watched Ruger Riojas knows. Well, and there's more that are down below. I mean, there's a couple that are missing on there.
Yeah.
But Ruger Riojas, anybody that's seen him knows that we're going to get 8 good batters from him. Now, he didn't necessarily have that this weekend, and that's going to happen every now and then. But from what we've seen from Ruger Riojas in the 8 innings pitch that he's gotten, as long as we don't let him go too far, he's going to give us a lot. And that's also going to be one of those hard things is, as he goes on through the season, does that too far? Does that get further out? Right? Is he able to extend further? But I still maintain if you can give us 8 batters, which is about 3 innings, if you're getting everybody out, if you can give us 3 innings of, good, solid shutdown relief, I'll take that every single time.
Yeah, 5. The perfect Friday formula for me, and these are the 2 bullpen arms I really like, is 5 from Spencer, 3 from Riojas, 1 from Duplantier, or maybe Duplantier gives you a Rivera save, the 4-out save. I'd like to see Duplantier be the full-time closer. I think he's the one I would most like to step up with. And if you wouldn't mind scrolling down a little bit, Connor, here, there is, for me, a little concern with this under Burns, or you can even maybe put Burns in there. I think Burns got a little unlucky in his starts. He had a great job against Dartmouth.
I think this weekend we just really had a hard time throwing strikes when they got it because you saw that with Riojas. You saw really it was up until Max Grubbs got in there. It was like nobody could find the strike zone. Whoever we were tossing up there, they couldn't find the strike zone. And we seemed like we were reeling, and then all of a sudden Max Grubbs gets in there. He does let up a few other runs, but man, he went back out there and he put a stop to everything.
Yeah, and I think there's still some. No, you're fine. You're fine. There's still some of these guys in this lower area. Like hopefully, Will Mercer is someone who kind of got the weekend off this weekend, hoping to rear him back in as that lefty reliever. McCreary and Moffitt stats, they've only come in once, but Cody Howard, the experience not been great so far. Drew Rarick's had some struggles getting into the strike zone. I still think guys like Rarick, Burns, Saunier, they can really be important relievers, and that's going to have to be something that shows up in the SEC play is who's going to be that third reliever for Texas. If Grubbs and Volantis really are going to be these like Sunday only guys where they're basically doing starting pitching levels of innings pitched, then Texas is going to need some true relievers to really step in. And that was always going to be a concern coming into the year. A lot of freshmen are being out here, a lot of transfers, and it's going to be a work in progress with Max Wiener. But you'd hope that maybe at the Santa Clara series, you're seeing we don't overthrow Spencer, we don't overthrow Harrison, so we can see how Mercer does, how Rarick does in some time. Can Burns be an 8th inning guy who can come in when Riojas gets chased into some trouble, and he can come in and give you just 2 batters of high leverage, high velocity pitching.
Yeah, I mean, 2 guys that I think below Thomas Burns that really stand out to me are Grayson Saunier and Connor McCurry. These are 2 guys that have SEC experience, and they're guys that ideally you want to see pitching well, because obviously when you get into a situation where, hey, these guys they've kind of not only faced these guys, but they know a little bit more of what the SEC pitching is going to be like and what it's going to demand. I think that those guys are going to be a little bit important to see. Hopefully we can get those guys up. And I think Connor McCurry, in his situation, he hasn't really done anything bad. He just, he's actually, I think he's looked really good, except for, that last batter against UIW. Hey, like
Yeah,
in
happens.
that one, I'm gonna completely forgive him because he threw 6 high. They were all really fat, like high velocity fastballs. They were just really high, and you could tell he was just amped, right? Stand. It was the first time with the fans all clapping and standing on their feet, for the last out. So that's gonna happen. I'm another guy I'm really not worried about is Aiden Moffett.
Yeah.
It's funny. This is one of those funny things to me is he just came in. I forget how that run was given up, but if you look, he didn't even give up a hit. Right? He's like,
No, yeah.
uh, this is a guy that he's got a lot of talent. There's a lot of talent in these guys that are below Thomas Burns. So if we can get some of these guys to really show up and give us some good solid innings in the SEC, that'll be huge. Like a guy like Will Mercer. We talked about that last time. This is this was the guy that in back-to-back off seasons, he was the guy that was most talked about out of the pitching
Yep.
staff. He just got hurt last year and we didn't get to see him. And then all of a sudden now we get to see him and he just got touched up a couple times. So hopefully he can come out there and he can hit the ground running because everything we've heard about Will Mercer is the polar opposite of what we've seen.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think, Moffitt, I just brought it up. He had a wild pitch and then he walked batter, bases were loaded, got taken out immediately. It's interesting that junior former SEC pitchers only gotten really one batter to face in his time here. You'd expect maybe this weekend's a time where they get him going, maybe Tuesday, see if that fireballer that he's kind of been promised to be can really show up in SEC play again. And, there's still some players that haven't seen the bump that you might expect to get a little bit work, like Bryce Navarre, the left-handed pitcher. I can't remember if Easton Tumis is injured or what's going on with that, but I would have expected him to pitch by now if he was healthy. So there's still some players that maybe Schlossnagle and Wiener are going to experiment with, but Texas still got a lot left from the pitching staff to maybe be an Omaha team.
I think something that kind of might play into it is we've had a few of these games where it's out of hand, right? And then all of a sudden it gets back into hand, like
Yeah,
Washington,
just like that.
So it's like, oh crap, okay, we got to pitch the guys because we got to get wins now, and you don't want to lose any of these games.
Nope.
You look at it like last year, just 2 losses, 1 loss to BYU and 1 loss to Washington. If you just flip those games, and so we take 2 or 3 of both those series, Texas is sitting there. We're hosting a college, or not college. I misspoke. We're hosting a regional with a chance to go to the College World Series. We're not having to go to A&M to play in a regional, right? And then maybe we're probably, we probably end up playing in A&M in the Super Regional, right? But we still get that chance to host our own regional at our own stadium and our own field. And man, that's something that can't ever be taken lightly in college baseball because having that home field advantage is beyond crucial. It's just especially when you get to the postseason, like these games, they don't really seem that important right now, but when the RPI starts getting to
Yep.
be a real serious talking point, that's when you start going, oh, if we had won that game, if we had won this game, right? You don't want to lose these games.
You don't want to. And, this regular season is 55 games long. So you need everyone you can get. Texas is 3-1 in 1-run games so far. That one loss, they nearly beat Louisville. It went to extra innings. So Schlossnagle's done a great job.
We led for 26 of 27 outs.
Exactly. And so Schlossnagle's done a great job of just winning games per out. That's what's going to matter at the end of the day. And it's going to show up in the rankings as well if you want to transition there, Connor. Texas now up to number 12 in both Baseball America and D1 Baseball. D1's the biggest jump. Perfect Game has been loving Texas since the start of the season. And I believe the one who dropped out of that top 7 was A&M, who what a weekend they've had they've had a rough start to the year. But yeah, Texas now a consensus top 12 team in the nation. Surprised Oklahoma didn't jump them. I remember seeing your tweets about that because they've done a great job as well. But Texas now in a really important position heading almost into SEC play.
Well, they did in Baseball America, and I know that some.
Oh, they did okay.
The funny thing is there's a lot of Texas fans that they've kind of what does Oklahoma doesn't deserve being ahead of Texas? Well, I mean, they did beat Oregon State and Virginia, who are pretty two good
Mhm.
teams on
All
their
right,
own right.
teams. Yeah.
Now maybe Virginia was a little bit overranked, kind of like A&M, and so you got to weigh that into it. But I think one of the things that people really kind of forget about with rankings is you want as little movement as possible. If I'm Perfect Game or D1 Baseball or Baseball America, right? My goal is to have I want the best teams, right? I want as little movement throughout the season as possible because I want to be able to tell people, hey, these are the best teams, and you know, I know I can say for certain that these are going to stack up this way week in and week out. You look at Perfect Game, there's little movement right there.
Yep.
So maybe they were closer. We'll see. That's just I don't know. It's one of the little side thought that I had is every now and then, what if we're become a top 5 team? Perfect Game got a pretty good. Perfect
Yeah.
Game's looking
Seriously.
like they're sitting there going, "Hey, our preseason ranking was a lot better than y'all's." And I mean, a lot of people kind of consider Perfect Game to be pretty glass half full.
Yeah,
Uh,
with the Longhorns, especially sometimes. And when these preseason rankings came out, on average, I think this average is about 12, like the 13th or 14th best team in the nation when you kind of put D1 baseball and Perfect Game together. They were very varied, but it seemed the consensus was this Texas team was good and that there was at least some talent on this team, but needed to be realized with the coaching. I think Schlossinger's shown that he's done his part. He's done what he needs to do to earn this team respect. And now maybe D1 baseball, especially, was asking for that respect to be earned more than Perfect Game. But I think both these sites are kind of saying the same thing of, hey, this is a team to really, really take stock into and say, this offense might be one of the best in the nation right now already. And it's time to look out for them as, they have Santa Clara series. They're playing A&M Corpus Christi on Tuesday, but, they're going to be in Mississippi State. And what happens if Texas goes into Mississippi State? And this is going to be a topic next week. What happens if they go in and sweep the Bulldogs? Like, where's the number there at that point for
well,
Texas?
it's
So,
looking like I mean to me, if we sweep Mississippi State, we got to be in the top 10, and
oh,
because
100%.
and then here's the other deal too, they they should be wanting Texas to be a top 10 team because then that sets up a likely top 10 matchup versus Texas and LSU in Austin.
Yep.
That
Yeah.
that'd be a great second week for Texas in the SEC. But man, at the end of the day, too, these rankings they really don't matter early on this year or
Mhm.
early on, not just this year. They don't matter early on in the year. Uh, I'd say probably about like week 10, like in the rankings down there. That's probably when you're going to want to start paying attention to rankings, and
Mhm.
that's when the rankings are not paying attention, but that's when the rankings are going to really start to matter, right? Because and even with the RPI too, the rankings they don't really matter at the end of the day because RPI is going to most likely going to determine who you could be. You could be ranked 12 and have an RPI of 30, and
Mhm.
they're going to say, "See you later." Sorry on your hosting chances, right? But uh, it's gonna be a fun season. The crazy thing is we're already 3 weeks through the season.
Yeah, right.
Like
It's
I
blown
didn't
by.
realize this earlier, but until I was looking at this, like making the graphic, I'm like, holy crap. Texas, like the baseball season is honestly just the same length as the football season.
Pretty much.
You
Yeah.
got about like
When
15, 16 weeks and then
conference
it's
tourney.
end of then you got the championships coming around. So
Yeah.
we're
And
all it's crazy to think that we're already almost 1/4 of the way through the season right now.
yeah. It almost being SEC play is wild. Like it's not this week, but next week after that.
Yeah,
And
this is the last non-conference series before we head into our
mhm.
first SEC.
And I don't know how on purpose this was, but you looked at you said week 10, so I decided to do my own little research. That week 10 series or that whole week is at Texas State for Tuesday, which is always an interesting one, that Texas State one, and then hosting A&M for those 3 weekend games.
That was not
So
on purpose. So
that is going to be the most important week of the year for Texas until they get to conference tourney time, and that's where it's going to show. Like, hey, if they're still in this number 12 area, like they just hold still, then if you 4-0 that weekend or you win against A&M, who knows what the limits can be for this team. So a lot to look forward to for Texas baseball. I think that's about all the time we have here today, Nash. Anything else you want to bring up before we hop off?
yeah, I mean, just to add on to that, when we get to that May area, You got April at the end of April. You got that Texas A&M. Then we go to
A&M.
Arkansas. Then we got Florida coming, and then we go to Oklahoma. It's going to be a lot of tough baseball to play at the end of the year.
It's gonna be a lot of fun though. Awesome month of baseball. I think that's all we got going, Nash. Thank you, for this great time. We're getting to that 40-minute mark again, and we're gonna have a lot to talk about next week, especially with SEC play coming up. But for now, Texas is gonna be playing on ESPN Plus in theory. You'd hope. No $25 subscriptions for our fans, and yeah, they're gonna be at home for those in Austin. So go out and see them before SEC play starts. They're gonna be on the road against that Mississippi State, so it's your best chance right now. But yeah, Texas baseball in a great spot heading in to this Corpus Christi game tomorrow.
Yeah.
All right.
No more streaming services.
No more streaming services. Flow Sports D1 Baseball, move it off the big guns. Well, that's going to be all for us today. Thank you all so much for listening on, and we'll see you this time next week.
Welcome.